Hi, my name is Bruce Allen. I'm in the entertainment business for over 30 years. I'm an artist manager. Throughout my history, I've managed acts like Backman Turner Overdrive and Loverboy. I've still managed Bryan Adams, Anne Murray, Martina McBride, and Michael Bublé. To me, the manager is the one friend the artist has. If he's doing his job, it's the one friend that the artist can count on to get the right answer or at least an opinion about what he thinks is the best for him. I've always said, I had a line with Michael Bublé. I said, when your career's over, you and I will go fishing, but it'll only be in a boat that holds two, because that's the only two people that really care about you is yourself and me. I believe when I find an artist, I have to totally respect what an artist wants to do. My job is to buy into the artist's vision and do the best I can to help him maximize it. If I can help the artist maximize his vision, then I've done my job. My job is not to create an artist. My job is to take an artist and make him happen on the world stage. That's what I believe. Without a manager, I don't believe an artist can do the job himself. I believe the manager is the most key guy on the artist's side. I was told long ago when I started the business with Randy Bachman, who had been in the Guess Who and sold a lot of records, he really didn't. I knew in my heart that he knew more about the business than I did because he'd been a big success and had a big star before I was. So he'd seen more problems, dealt with more things than I had, and I was young. And I said to me, Randy, I said to him, Randy, how can I manage you? You've forgotten more things than I've ever. I know. How can I actually sit there and manage you? He said, listen, I can help you and I can guide you, but I can't walk in there and say, I want this, I want that, I want to do this, I need somebody to say, he wants to do it, we want to do it, this is what we believe. I need a spokesperson. It's very hard for an artist to sit there and go, I, all day to a record label head. And so he wanted somebody to be his spokesman. Now, he guided me through there, and he came up with many of the game plans because he'd been experienced in that, but I delivered that message. And that's how I learned the business. I have a partner who is a partner in my overall business. He has a partner in his acts because he believes that the two of them can do a better job but to have a bigger volume of acts. He might have 12 acts, and he's got a partner, okay? We disagree with that. Him and I disagree on that topic. If I take an act and I work for $100,000 a night and I'm a 15% guy, I get $15,000. If he has an act with a partner and it makes $100,000 a night, he has all of a sudden $7,500. He's split it with that guy. If I'm his partner also, now he's down to $3,750. It's just what you want to do. I believe partners are brought in for only one or two reasons, or only for a couple of reasons. Expansion, if you want more acts, or to take some of the heat off. And I believe also it might help in a good cop, bad cop, if you have to deal with an artist. Me, I'm the good cop, the bad cop, I'll be whatever cop you want. I mean, I have to do both roles. So, but it's nice. I think it might be intimidating even for an artist to come down and sit with two managers. Immediately it's a gang up. There's the two managers and the artist. And an artist always feels a bit intimidated by management, historically. There's been a history of bad management. Even guys with big careers had bad management. Elvis Presley had bad management. He made a lot of bad decisions that you look back on and think that it's a horrible job. But I think that one-on-one thing, I feel so privileged when an artist sits down and talks to me, maybe not only about his music or his art, but his life, okay? What he's doing with his family, what he's thinking about spiritually. I think that's really an honor that he'll do that one-on-one. I don't know if he had to have the same conversation one-on-two. And that's what I think a personal manager is. The hardest thing about being a manager, one of the hardest things, is delivering the bad news. Okay, and we have to deliver the bad news. I'm sorry, we're in a building with 7,000 people. I'm only at 3,000 tickets. That wasn't my goal. My goal, I was in the 7,000 seat building because I thought I should sell 7,000. A promoter friend has a great idea, has a great line, and sometimes Sometimes I use it and I think it's kind of funny. And I phone up and I said, Don, how's the date doing? Sold out. How many tickets you sell? Well, sold out. Well, how many? It's 4,000. But Don, the building is 8,000. Yeah, but it's sold out. How is it sold out? Well, that everybody who wanted one bought one. I mean, that's an interesting line, you know. But I mean, the artist goes out there and sees half a house. It's frightening when you're standing up there. You know, what's our defense? Turn up the spotlight so he can't see any further back. Papering the houses, we try. You know, because they're fragile. If they see 3,000 people in 7,000 seater, they think their career's on the slide. Because they're artists, they go right to the disaster scenario. It's not a disaster. It's just didn't work here. Next night it'll be. It's you have to walk people through this stuff. The best part there is about being a manager is seeing a plan come to fruition and work. And I think that's the high of highs. Okay, I've been fortunate enough to break an act every decade from the ground up. There's not many people who've done that, who've taken an act from nothing to global thing. America's one thing. You can get caught up in saying we break America. It's a big world out there. You can sell a lot more records around the world than you can in America. So when you see a plan come to fruition, when you have a dream, you and the artist, and you realize that dream, or even surpass it. I mean, an artist like Michael Bublé said to me when I started, Bruce, my goal, if I can make 100,000 records, if I can sell 100,000 records, I know they'll let me make another one. They told me. 100,000 records. If I sold 100,000 records, you'd be playing the lounge downstairs, you know. I mean, so his goal, I want to get to 100,000 records. Then all of a sudden we got to 1 million. Then his goal changed. Okay, and that's great to see. That's great to hit a home run. And the home runs are few and far between, but when it happens and everything all comes together and everybody's pushing and things running all 8 cylinders and it's clicking, that's a big high. That's a big high for a manager or anybody, or the artist or anybody else involved in the project. I was born and raised in Vancouver. I started in the business as an agent. And as an agent, I was interested in, of course, just getting the bands that I represented work. Okay, and I realized when I was in college, I was an economics major, and for some reason I was kind of enamored by the way Jimmy Hoffa ran the Teamsters Union in those days. And I believe that if I believe there's a point in the entertainment business, especially in clubs when clubs were big, and all of the artists in those days developed through clubs, that there was a figure that was a figure that was good enough for the club to make money and good enough for the band to make money. In those days, I had 17 clubs of my own downtown that I booked every 6 days a week, and I could pay bands in those days $1,500 to $2,500 a week. You can't even do that today, okay? But there was a job there for those guys, and I believe that those clubs could pay the bands that much and still make a lot off the liquor and the cover charge. And make no mistake about it, clubs is about selling liquor. Any club's about selling liquor, whether it's strippers, music, whatever you want to do, is to get people in there and drink. That's where the money is. So we had a great, vibrant club scene then. And out of that club scene, when Randy came over to work after he left the Guess Who, because he wanted to work, he needed a place to develop the bands, I could work him all the time. And after he'd worked with me for a year in the clubs and built Backman Turnover Drive and figured out what he was going to do so he could pay the guys there that were in his band at the time, he asked me to manage him. It was kind of like a logical step for him. It's a very logical step for me. I never thought I would take that step, although when I did take it, I took my agency and I brought in a partner to look after that agency, and I went out on the road with Randy Backman and learned the business. There's not a job that BTO played in ever that I was not there, okay, because I had to learn that as a crash course. And I believe you look back today, and when BTO sold more records than any other act out of this country, and one time sold more records than any other act in the world or in North America in 1975, and you look back, and there were some things that I learned then, too, is that if we go back in history and look at the biggest acts in the world, whether they're Elvis Presley, whether they're the Beatles, whether they're the Rolling Stones, whether they're U2 today or Bruce Springsteen, all those acts had one thing in common: one manager, one act. That manager got up every day and worked on that act, okay? And I think that acts make a huge mistake today by going to management firms with a roster. A roster is not what's important in a management company. What's important is the belief and the time that a guy can put into your career, because it's so competitive. It's so competitive. You need somebody to get up and eat and breathe and sleep and think about you every day to get you ahead. And artists who go because they think, I'm going to go there because this person has this act there. Well, guess what? You're going to be behind that act. We're all the same. We all try to jump on the winners and ride them hard. And if an act doesn't go to where he's going to get some attention, they're not going to make it either at the management level or the record company label. I always talk to acts. When Bryan Adams had a record, trying to put his record deal together, we sat down. Where would you like to be as an artist? What label can do a job with the music you make? In those days, it was A&M Records because they were very artist-friendly. They had a diverse label. They could look after the Police. They had Carole King. They had Herb Alpert was on it. Well, it's his label. Of course he was on it. But they had a bunch of acts that were very artistic. They had a very credible. So he said, if I could ever be on A&M Records, I would instantly have that credibility. So, we went there and were fortunate enough to make a deal. When we went to make a deal with Michael Bublé, Warner Brothers picked up on us because David Foster makes records that he understands Michael Bublé. He makes those types of records. There was a home there. He was an executive. He understood it. He'd made Josh Groban. He'd done Whitney Houston. He's got a tremendous track record of making records where Michael fit into the slot. Too many record companies, too many artists don't look at the home they're going to see really if they fit into that slot. And because there's just like, if I was a rock band, I would like to maybe be at Atlantic Records when Jason Flom was running, because he knew how to work that project. I wouldn't like to take Michael Bublé to Atlantic Records because he wouldn't know what to do with them. I mean, he'd know what to do with them, but his company isn't set up that way. It's set up to break rock records. So I think you got to make some interesting decisions like that also. But when you get back to saying what's a manager's job, I keep saying the manager is the artist's best friend. It's you, the artist, and the manager against everybody else. The record company believes you're a profit center. The record company, after any one of my artists are over, you can guarantee Warner Brothers, EMI, Sony, RCA, I don't care what company, all these artists, they go away. Another artist comes down and takes their slot. And I remember talking to an artist, a record company president in Nashville, and saying, boy, you dropped that act. He said, Bruce, I just don't want to deal with them anymore. And you got to remember this. There's another cowboy with a guitar and a song coming down the street every day. There's an old saying that the guy who becomes a manager is the guy that owns the truck. And it's kind of simplistic, but in a way, there's no school. There's no college course, okay? I would have to say the most important thing that a manager can have is passion. If he can have passion for what he's doing, anybody nearly with a brain can be a manager. But it's the thing, you got to sit there and you got to be passionate about that act. You got to eat, breathe, and sleep that act. I wish I could say go to school and take that course, go to school and take this course. I don't think that's the way it works. And now there are guys who have become managers that have gone to work in management firms or have gone to work in agencies and seen how the business works. I understand that. And then they step out of that and they go into management. That might be their long-term goal. But you can't go anywhere to learn the business. You got to be passionate about the artist. You got to believe in him, and you got to work your ass off to make sure that you explore every avenue for him to develop as an artist. And that's what it mostly takes. I know it sounds simplistic, but I mean, all the managers that I know, and the great managers that I know, John Landau was a journalist. Cliff Bernstein at Q Prime was like a college booker. Okay, Roger Davies with Tina Turner, who's a great manager, he was just a music fan. Like me, they're not really skilled guys. I mean, I'm sure there are some lawyers out there that maybe became managers for whatever reason, I don't know, because it's really rolling the dice. Okay, and that's another thing you got to be. We live on percentages. We're the only guy out there that's living on percentages, us and the agents. But the agencies are loaded with acts. They got 70 of them, 80, 100 of them. They got film people. We got screenwriters. They got everybody in these big agencies. Okay, we got these. This is all we're living on is a percentage. Their lawyers billing us time. The record companies owning the masters, they own everything we do. So the manager's just rolling the dice, hoping that his act will hit. And I guess the one trait he ought to have is he ought to be passionate. He's got to be able to be a gambler. You got to gamble. When it comes to how hands-on one has to be, I've made mistakes by tailoring artists. I mean, I've had, I can speak all about the winners, but I've had lots of failures too. And the biggest failures that I've had is I took my vision of the artist was more strong, more powerful than his own. And I tried to mold him to what I thought he should be. That's wrong, okay? And it's never worked. The artists have to have the vision. I've got to just expand that and do the best I can. So hands-on, listen. I've got to believe in what you're doing as an artist. I'm not going to pick your music. Will I have an opinion? Of course I'll have an opinion. Will the guy say, do you like this song? Of course I'll have it. Do you like this picture? Of course I'll have an opinion. And a lot of times I'll fight for my opinion. I think my opinion is better than his when it comes to marketing. When it comes to music, I realize that guy has to stand up there for the next 20 years of his life singing that song. If I like the song and he can't stand it, I got to lose that argument. Okay, I have to lose it. When it comes to other things, like people say, what do you do for them? Do you get involved in their taxes and you get involved in their business? No. My job is to get them a tax problem. It's their job to go solve it. Okay, I'm not trained to do that. I'm not an accountant. Okay, my job is to get them to that stage. Somebody else can look after that. Too many managers have lost their jobs by thinking, I'm going to take your money and I'm going to invest it in these apartments, or I'm going to buy this, or I'm going to do this for you. And then those things go horribly wrong. And then all of a sudden, they're questioning every decision. Okay, I just want to sit there and take their art and maximize it the best I can. I don't want to do anything else. Because if I do a good job of that and the money comes in, there's professionals out there that can look after that. That's not my area.
So how many acts can you effectively have?
I really believe when it comes to how many acts you can have in your roster, if you're going to be hands-on at all and not turn it over to a lackey in the office and say, I'll tell you what, we're going to sign you. I think you're a great act. But on your day-to-day work, you're going to talk to Sam over there. And if you ever get in a problem with Sam and he can't deliver, then Sam will come to me and I'll help you. If I was a artist sitting there and some manager said to me, a manager said to me that that's the way it's going to be, I would walk out the door. Because I came to this office to be represented by you, not Sam, not some guy that, worked in the office for a year and is a bit of an intern. He's going to go out there and deal with you on a day-to-day basis. I don't believe in that thing. It's the day-to-day things that make an artist big. It's the day-to-day mistakes that an artist blows his career up. Okay? I believe I'm right at my max now. I don't know if I could do any more than 4. And I'm struggling because I got this new band. And if I really, what goes through my head here every day? If I took that 1 hour out that I had to work on this new band and put it into the guy who's selling 3 million records, can I take that hour and move him up that 5%, which will generate a lot more money to him and a lot more money to me than this act will if I give him that hour and take him up to $200 a night to $250. And that's what's happened to the rock business now, is those acts who are out there working for nothing. Music has been devalued. So these bands, these young bands, $500 a night, $250 a night, it's obscene that people work for gas money. But that's what's happened to our industry. The artist thing is just completely devalued, and it's really difficult to break new acts when all you're doing is borrowing money. They're just front loading you with money. Here, tour support for this, tour support for that, but it's their money. Okay, so is it better for me as an artist to sit there and say, I'm going to spend today, instead of worrying about this Happy Endings meeting, which is the new band, that's going to take 3.5 hours. Is it better for me to sit there with Martina for 3.5 hours and figure out what to do? So I think you can only handle 3 or 4 people and do a good job. I think after that's a law of diminishing returns. And I'm just not going to, I don't believe an artist should allow me to spin them off to some guy I said, I'm really the manager, but he's going to do the day-to-day work. And that's done all the time now. And the biggest thing wrong with our industry is we don't have many great managers. Because believe me, you bleed for these people. If you care, these guys, you're talking to them at 2 o'clock in the morning. You're talking to them all day long. You're sweating over these decisions. If you care, if you really do the job, you can't do that. You can't give yourself to that many people. You can't take that you only got so much passion to give. You only got so much caring. You only got so much heart. Okay, you can't do it for too many people and do a good job. Well, it depends on the artists. Some artists think they're successful if they have commercial success. Other artists think they're successful if they have critical success. Other artists think they're successful if they just get their music out there. So it depends. And I think that some artists are afraid of success, big success, or what I would call commercial success. Because with success comes responsibility. And when they have responsibility, that's not what they really got into it for. They got into it to get their art out there, and it became bigger than they ever thought it would. And they're not comfortable in that seat, and there are people like that. So you'll always see people who are just thrilled to put out their music. That's good enough. My music gets out there. You hear artists all the time. I don't care if nobody buys it. I just want to get it out there. I just want to make it. I just want to get my record out there. I don't care if nobody buys it. It's good enough for me that just, it's just out there. That's a bit of a cop-out. Every artist wants commercial success. They just won't say it because they don't want to fail. And some people, I think, see, what is success? I used to get angry about this stuff. Wait a minute. My artist has sold 10 million records, and that artist there sold 500,000 records, and their critics are saying that artist who sold 500,000 records is great. What do you mean they're great? If you're great, you sell millions of records. If you're not, that's just the way it is. You want to make the big vote's the cash register. Somebody doesn't buy it, how can it be great? You artists, you critics, you're just like eunuchs in a whorehouse. You're just saying that, okay? You're just saying that it's great because you want to be smarter than you want to be hip, okay? But a success, I guess, is just up to the individual. If that artist thinks he's successful, selling 500,000 records, who am I to tell him he's not? He probably thinks that's great. I don't. He does. So if he's successful, that's what success is. It's up to the individual. I can recognize talent, but I don't know what to do with it sometimes. What a wonderful guitar player. This guy can play more notes than any 3 guitar players I know, but what am I going to do with it? Okay? The artists that I've done the best with, everyone has been driven to success. They might not be the best songwriters. They might not be the best players. They might not even be the best performers. But by God, they're going to work so hard that they're going to basically force everyone around there to believe that they're great. I believe that Bryan Adams, I said it before, if he got up in the morning when he was 17 and decided he was going to be the best, he was going to be a nuclear physicist, he'd have been the best nuclear physicist. That's just the way he thinks, right? Now he's taken his art, he's moved on, he's a photographer. This guy is a major talent. He's been flying around the world taking shots and stuff. He decided, put his mind to it, I'm not just going to be a photographer and take pictures of plants and crap. I'm going to actually be a great photographer. I'm going to put out books. I'm going to be a great... He did it. That's just in his mindset. He's going to be the best he can possibly be. Some guys just want to, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Boy, if I can play guitar, I'm going to get laid, I'm going to get drugs, and I'll have a great time. And I'll meet broads. It'll be fantastic. That's good enough for some guys. But other guys, I see a guy come in there with the passion. If he can convince me that he's going to do it, he's going to work hard, and he's got the talent to do it, I'll buy in every time. I'm a promoter too. See, so I get sucked into it. A guy can promote me. All us guys get sucked in, and then we get into the project. We find, wait a minute, you want to go home to your girlfriend? Wait a minute, you want to have a family? Wait a minute, all these things get in the way here. Okay, of being successful. You got to be single-mindedness is what makes guys successful. I don't care whether you're an athlete, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're an artist. It's the single mind and the focus. If I can be convinced that they're going to focus, then I can make it with some talent. Talent and focus, I'll get there. I've been in the music business. I've been in the fight business, boxing business. I've been in the Winston Cup NASCAR stock car business. I've been in the club business. Okay, and I've been in the restaurant business. But look at the common thread here. Okay, I liked being in the sport. I like being in the boxing business. Okay, it's easy to figure that out. Okay, I go in there, these 2 fighters, my fighter, he knocks the guy out, he wins. He gets knocked out, he loses. Okay, music business for me it's not defined that much. I gave you a great song, but because the record company head was elsewhere, that song didn't happen. They weren't really into the project, so that song died. We all own great records, and we can't understand why they weren't great. Well, it's because everything didn't come together. With sports, it's so definitive. I crossed the line first, I'm first. I scored more points, I win. I mean, that was what I liked about sports. I could deal with the failure. It was easy. I could see it. Okay, what I had trouble with in the music business was failure, and I've had some acts I couldn't understand why they weren't bigger acts. I couldn't understand it. I now know when I stand at the time though. I thought everything was going, but it wasn't going. I was being conned. I was being I was being told things were being done that they weren't really being done. I wasn't the priority. Okay, so sometimes I go into these other businesses just because I need a dose of reality, because the music business is so far from reality, it's hard to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So I like doing some of these other things. And people say, here's another thing I did, here's another thing I believe about the management business. I'd manage a country act, I manage an AC act, I manage a rock act, I manage a youthful, I guess what you would call it, a modern rock act, okay, and I manage a iconic act, okay. No act of mine ever wakes up one day and turns on television and says, I wonder if that call came to me to be on that show. And Bruce said, it's your turn, you can have it. Martina McBride never has to think that she ever lost a shot at anything to Bryan Adams. Michael Bublé knows that Bryan Adams and him are not compatible. They don't do the same things. That's important, because I don't want two female country acts. I don't want to manage Bryan Adams and John Cougar Mellencamp. I don't want to manage Michael Bublé and Harry Connick. I don't want to manage Anne Murray and Gladys Knight. I don't want to do that, okay? Because there's conflict there. I don't need that conflict. Well, you see, every young band comes to you and say they're going to work hard. They know all the answers to say what to do. We're going to work. We're going to be out there. We're going to keep working. The advice I have is you got to work on your art. You got to become great players. You got to learn how to become great songwriters. And if the first thing that's important in our business is a song. If you've got a great song, you're halfway there. So you got to concentrate on your art. If they're going to write all their own music, then you learn to be great songwriters. That's the first thing that I tell these bands to do. And then after that, honestly, you have to get yourself a manager. You got to get somebody to believe in you, to help you open doors, to get your career going. That's what I believe. But first of all, the focus, it's all about the music first. Actually, the second thing is the distribution. There's all these indie labels come up here. I find it funny that everybody wants to be an independent, but all the guys running the independent company want to have this major distributor the record. Okay, so I mean, if you want to take out the middleman, I guess you can go right to the distributor itself and sign direct. It's sexy to be with an independent. You can walk around and say you're independent. I use independent as another word to say, oh, I'm an indie band. Okay, well, you're a failure. Now, okay, indie and failure kind of go together for me, unless, they take it further. There's too many people who sit there and are just enamored by these acts who go out there and sell 20,000 records. They're great. No, they're not great. They're just, you think it's cool. So I just say, focus on the songs, boys. Whether you're a rock band, a country band, the AC band, focus on the songs. Great songs will win out every time. Well, I'm thrilled I made a career in the music business, and I'm thrilled that all my artists that I've been involved with, some have done well, some have not done as well as others. Some of them have failed, but nobody has ever sued me. I've never had a signed contract with anybody. They always thought, I hope, that I did the best I could, and it just wasn't meant to be for any number of reasons. I can only do what I do. And right now I feel blessed to have all the acts that I'm doing outside the brand new act, which is just starting. We got winners. We have no losers. I don't have to whinge at that phone call coming in. That's fantastic, because I know that there's a lot of managers, as there are agents, as there are attorneys, as there are accountants in our business. They know who's that call's coming. They know that can't be a good call. I might not get a call I might get a bad call, but it ain't because I'm broke. It ain't because my record ain't doing well. It ain't going to be one of those calls, okay? But I just am blessed right now to deal, and I hope I can stay that way with acts that are winning, and that's what I've tried to do.